Okay. All right, Jan. I thank you for taking this time to speak with me. And could you just give me a little bit of a briefing on your background, and then explain to us about how you see the environment and how things have changed, and how all of that can play a part in diabetes.
Sego. My name is Jan Kahehtiio Longboat. I'm from the Mohawk Nation, from the Turtle Clan. And I was born here on Six Nations of the Grand River. Have lived here all my life. And so I grew up in an environment that is a bit different, much different than today. I grew up here when everyone here on the reserve had a garden. Everyone lived off the land and ate good food, and and of course at that time there wasn't the diseases that are here today. I don't recall when I was growing up here a lot of diabetes. I don't recall a lot of cancer or TB or any of those diseases that we have today. And so I think it was because we lived a better life. We ate good food. The water at that time was clear, and it was not polluted. The air, of course, was much better. Everything. So now today it's so different that it's almost an epidemic now of diabetes, of cancer, of every kind of disease here that we have today. And I can attest to that because I've seen the difference. I feel really grateful that I had the opportunity to listen and to talk and to practice the old ways, to listen to those old people, to see how they lived, to see how they taught us, see how they ate. And I can tell you that those old people, I call them old people, they lived to be 100. They lived to be 105. And I remember talking to one of the old women down here. Her name was Leta. I don't even know her English name because all the old people used their Indian names. But Leta, she smoked a pipe all her life, and she was. So somebody asked her when she was about 104, what did she see? What did she give credit to for living so long? And what she said is, she said, I smoked my pipe every day, but I never inhaled. And she said that was to keep me calm and at peace. And she said, I've worked hard. People today don't work hard. She said, I worked hard. And she said, I ate good food. And that's true. That's exactly the difference today. People don't work hard. We don't eat good food. And so a lot of things have happened that shouldn't happen. And one of those is diabetes. The other thing is I grew up learning about traditional medicines and realized that there's a real key, I guess I would say, to using our medicines. And one of those things is to purify our blood, to cleanse our body. And the way the old people used to do it is spring and summer. They would purify the blood, and fall and winter as well. And in the spring and summer, right now as we speak, the sap is running. The maple, the thunder beings have come to wake up the trees, and the first tree to wake up is the wata, the maple, and it's giving us maple sap, which is a cleanser. So we drink that sap, 4 gallons of it, and it purifies the blood. It detoxifies the body, the poisons and so that's another thing we don't do as much, is to purify our blood. And then in the winter we drink that medicine again to keep our body clean, so we don't get a cold, we don't get the flu, and we don't get sick. And so that's another thing, that process that we always went through, but we don't do that as much today. And so it's not just the food. I believe today that the sicknesses are environmental. They're environmental, meaning that not only are we not eating good food, but we're not breathing good air. The air is polluted. We're not drinking good water. And life is so stressful today. We have to work hard not to get stressed out, which is, a killer as well, is stress. So there's a lot of things happening today, not just to our older people, but to our young people as well. They don't get out and play outside anymore. They're so involved in technology. They don't take the time to sit and listen to our old people anymore because they're so involved in other things. And so we've taken a different road now. We've veered off to what it used to be, and we've taken this different road. And I don't think that road is very healthy. So I guess that's my thoughts on why today we have the diseases such as diabetes that we have. And there is medicines, there's herbs for diabetes out there in the wild, and if we can also take those medicines, they'll help us. But the other thing is, I think that if I have to stress, the real thing is that we need to eat better. Because food it's everything to keep our body alive. We need to change our diets to a lesser, I guess, a cholesterol diet. And so that's my thoughts on diabetes.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about the medicines that are out there, how does someone get a hold of those medicines? How do they find out about what they need to do?
Well, the thing that I found is that every community that I do a lot of traveling, and every community that I travel to, the people know their medicine people. They're not as plentiful, mind you, as they used to be. But most of the First Nations still have people that know a bit about medicine. So I found all you got to do is ask, and they'll direct you to the right people. And then the process of that is, to approach a medicine person. It's that whole philosophy of giving and receiving. Like you don't just you give them something and they give you something. And so it's that whole practice the way it used to be of giving and receiving as well. Now the other thing is about medicines, they're not sold. They're exchanged. You exchange something for the medicines. So there's people when I work with medicines, and there's that whole belief system of not only giving and receiving, but offering that tobacco to the plant and asking the Sogoyant Diso, the creator, to thanking them for this medicines that we've been given. We've been given these medicines to help us through life. And so if we get to know these natural medicines, they're so much better. They are better than drugs. There's so many side effects to drugs. And that's another thing. If people are diabetic, I'm really grateful that I'm not diabetic. But if people are diabetic, it's you have to take sometimes a lot of drugs, and that's not good for us either. So.
So how does someone who is already on medication for diabetes, um, how do they start to change? Do they go talk to their doctor first, or do they just start by eating right and like?
Well, what I found is working with diabetics is that I always suggest to them, talk to your doctor and tell them you're going to go, you're going to change your diet, and that's going to affect your medication as well. And you can even tell them that you're going to start taking herbal medicines, so that they're well aware of what's the process that you're going to do. And so most doctors I found today will work with you, with helping you through that. And I've known people right now that because they changed their diet, they went off of insulin.
Mm.
They went off of insulin. They went back on the pills. So there's a process of reversal as well, but it all encompasses how we take care of ourselves. It's really necessary when a person's diabetic to really take care of themselves. To eat properly, to get enough rest, to not to get any sores or anything like that. It's a real discipline to take care of ourselves. But we should take care of ourselves anyways, regardless. We should always, don't wait till we get diabetes to do that. We should be every day taking care of ourselves.
For the general person, what would be a basic everyday type of practice for healthy living?
Well, I would say to have a lot of fiber. That's the other thing, and to eat. Have a balanced diet of fruit and vegetables. Not a lot of greasy foods, of course, and not a lot of well. The other thing that happens today is our foods are so full of chemicals, and so for example, red meats. I don't recommend eating red meats at all. They're just so full of the fat. Percentage of fat is very high, and so all I eat is wild meat. I'll eat venison, which has less than 3% fat in it. Moose, buffalo. Those meats are very, very low fat, but very high protein. Plus, they're not given chemicals. They're organically fed by the creation. So I think that really keeping in mind what our food contains. Even today, like it's a big commitment to learn about nutrition. Not everybody, you got to learn about it. For example, today the doctors are telling us to eat more wild blueberries because they're the highest antioxidants in their food, which is cancer fighting. Well, our people knew that forever. We're berry people. We've always eaten berries from the time the wild strawberries come out right to the time in the fall when the cranberries are used. And so what the old people used to say is they said there's a process to eating. And I remember when I learned this process, they said when you get up in the morning, you eat the foods that are closest to the Creator. So that would be the fruit, the high bush berries. And then they said when that sun is straight above us, they said you eat the foods that are above the ground. And then they said when the sun has walked its path from the east to the west, they said you eat the foods that are below the ground, the root vegetables, and then that'll last you till the next day. And you know, when I studied diet and nutrition, and I looked at this, our kind of foods, it's a complete balance of acid and alkaline. Complete balance. And today we're finding that people are too acidic, too acidy. And when our body becomes too acidic, all kinds of things happen. We get ulcers or gout, or when the body becomes too acidic. So our diet was a complete balanced diet. And I think if we can just get back to a couple of things, maybe purification, detoxification, cleansing, and that is what we've done through fasting, or through, today they call them sweat lodges. We call them purification lodges. If we can just get back to that one thing even of purification, I believe that in 2 generations we could eliminate 75% of the diseases we have today. Just through that one process. And it's so easy and simple to do. And then maybe start looking at putting in a garden. Everybody gardened when I was growing up. Everybody. We lived off the land, grew our own food. Good food. And so if people could just, even a little teeny garden. And if you live in a city, you can do gardening in pots. Yeah, you don't need 10 acres of land to do a nice little garden. You can grow garden up the side of your house.
What would be a good starter for a garden for if you're living in the city?
In the city?
Yeah. What can be the best things to put in your garden?
Well, I would think beans. Beans are high protein, low carbohydrate foods. You know, when we were growing up, we ate a lot of beans. And we thought we were poor, but we were really rich because beans are so high in protein. And so it's easy to grow beans.
A specific kind of beans, or what kind of beans?
Any kind of beans, whether they're bush bean or whether they're a climbing bean. Yeah. Okay. And we have, you know, we still have all our indigenous seeds today. And so, you know, grow beans, grow some squash. Squash will grow too up the wall. And those really good foods that we've always eaten. Yeah. Maybe you can't grow a lot of corn, but you can grow those smaller things, cucumbers, you know, which clean the body. Things like that you can grow. Tomatoes, you know, it just small things, but good food. Good food.
And berries.
And some berries. Grow some berries. Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about what kinds of things, how we can start. You know, I think a lot of times people have to recognize they need to change, and it needs to be. If we all of a sudden just decide, okay, well that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it all the way, it doesn't usually last very long. So it has to be a gradual thing, eh? Do you see that?
It has to be a commitment, you know, for change to happen. For anyone to change, you know, you have to be committed to what you want to do. Whether it's stopping smoking or, you know, whatever it is, you have to make a commitment to yourself, not to somebody else. You have to make it to yourself, and then you have to have the discipline. So those 2 things are key in making life changes, is discipline and commitment.
So that starts in the garden, right? Make a commitment to make a garden.
That's right.
Keep the commitment to weed it and water it. And
right. Save some seeds. Yeah. It's a beautiful commitment, you know, to get back to the earth. And then next you can go on to do something else.
What about our soils, though? Because some of the soils, like even at my mother's house around here, it's like clay. What kind of soil should we be
Well,
looking
there's
for?
such a thing as soil building. Is soil, you can build a soil with organic stuff. just your take. I do all organic gardening, and I just throw all my clippings out into the garden and build the soil up. So, and then if you have clay, yeah, it's difficult, but you can also do raised gardening.
Oh, above the ground.
Yeah,
So you put
what
in
you
a,
do is you raise your beds up, and then work in a good soil. So that's yeah, a lot of people do that.
So how high should the beds go? The beds should go as deep as the roots would go down, right?
At least 18 inches. At
Mm-hmm.
least 18 inches. And the other thing about gardening is a real healer. Not only to get your hands into that Mother Earth, get that good energy, but it gets you really thinking. It's a good practice to heal emotionally, physical, mentally, and spiritually. And certainly that we know that the earth is our mother and gives us everything we need to sustain ourselves. So it's really, I think gardening is one of the best. Yeah, what can I say? It's a practice that is holistic. It's holistic practice of good healthy living.
Because we have that connection right away with the earth.
With the earth, yeah. So.
And so when you talked about the soil being uh, building it up and stuff, because there's all this fertilizer stuff that's out there too now, and that's not good for you either.
No. Um, well, I don't use any fertilizers. And if you build your soil up with compost, you don't need fertilizers. One of the old ways of building our soil was when we planted what we call the three sisters, the beans, the corn, squash. When you harvest those three sisters, what you do is you leave the corn shucks, the corn cobs, the bean leaves and stuff, you leave it in the garden. And when that breaks down in that combination, it's total nitrogen. So our people knew what to do and how to do it culturally. We knew how to sustain ourselves in a real healthy earth. So that's another thing, we need to maybe learn of how to keep good soil, keep our soil built up to where it's good organic soil. But you can easily deplete your soil if you don't build it, but you can build it with organic stuff and not pesticides or insecticide stuff, fertilizers. Yeah.
So it's like our people knew what they were doing, but they didn't have the English words to describe why it works. So they didn't have the scientific explanation. Is that right? As they knew what worked, but they couldn't tell you in the English form why it was.
Well, when you go back and you learn our life ways through our language, it tells us exactly what to do in the language. So, and when to do it, how to do it, why we do it, everything's in the language. And when I used to hear the old people say our culture is in the language, I didn't exactly know what they meant, but today I do. And it's so scientific that you can't make a mistake when you know the language. But what happened to us is that through residential schools, through colonization, we went to a totally different language, and then with that a totally different understanding of how to work with it, in a good natural way. So if we can begin to bring that back as well, bring back the language, there's no mistake in how we should live a good life.
Okay, I'm a little. Can you explain that again? Like the language? You said our culture is in the language.
Mm-hmm.
So if each one of us was to go back and learn what our language is, so are you saying that in the language itself there's more words to describe things?
When the language is our language is so descriptive. When you say a word, it makes a picture. It creates a picture, and in our mind. So when you see the picture from the language, then you understand the process of what we're supposed to do.
Can you give me an example?
A gunsalage, you know, that winter. That's the winter. Oh, we're just getting over the winter now, just coming into spring, and that a gunsalage is that Mother Earth has been asleep. She's been asleep. She's been covered with a white blanket. And so in the winter, we eat the foods that are white foods. And so, and that's our white corn. That's a winter food, is white corn. Our corn soup was a winter food. And then we always light our corn with wood ashes, hardwood ashes. If you sift hardwood ashes, they're white. And then we used, for our beans, we used a white potato bean to be in the corn soup. And then our meat was never salt pork. Our meat was, the old way was beaver tail. And if you skin a beaver tail, the meat, the sort of the gristle, the fat gristle is pure white.
Oh.
So you know, that word, that language told us what to even eat at certain cycles of the year.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing. And what happened was that when we went to residential schools and we didn't learn our language anymore, then we got away from knowing how to do things. You know, I believe our people are the most scientific people in this world. Everything, how we lived, was all science. It was all science-based, and we knew that. We knew that. So I believe, too, if we can just learn a few words, I know for myself, my dad wouldn't teach us because he was in mush hole. And he didn't want us to be punished. So he wouldn't teach us, 10 kids. But we heard the language all of our life. And so now I've gone back into 6 summers of immersion, Mohawk immersion. And I can truly tell you, without a doubt, that they're absolutely right. The culture is in the language. I don't know if I'll ever become fluent, but certainly it's helped really open my eyes and my learning when I started to relearn the language.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about eating the white food, that we're not talking about
White
sugar
flour,
and
no.
salt and flour.
No, absolutely not. White bread. We're talking about white natural foods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the same then for each season then.
Mm-hmm. We eat with the seasons. We eat like the animals.
Well, we've still got some time, so tell me about the rest of the seasons.
Well, I remember when my grandma, who worked with medicines, she always said, watch the animals, they'll teach you. And that's absolutely true. She said, if those birds don't eat those white berries, don't you eat them. If those animals don't eat those red berries, don't you eat them. She said, you watch the animals, they'll show you what to eat. And so it's true that they certainly do. Yeah.
I see the birds, they eat the buds off my maple tree out front of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Should we be eating buds off of maple trees?
Those buds are probably full of nutrients.
Well, 'cause I get mad at them every year because they leave droppings on top of my car. They're red droppings.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
So we ate with the cycles, and the reason we ate with with the cycles is because that's when our fresh food was plentiful. Now the berries will start in the spring and go right through the summer. That's why we ate berries. We had to eat with the cycles because that's when it was ready. Yeah.
what about freezing? Did we ever do freezing?
No. We did preservation through drying, through dehydration. We did a lot of our food was dehydrated. It was dried foods. And all we had to do was reconstitute it, and it would still have the same vitamins and minerals. And yeah.
Oh, so there's none of this other jelly stuff and other liquid preservatives that they put in the things now, right?
No. So we ate with the cycles. So when summer came, we ate. We didn't eat red meats in the summer. We ate fish. And the water kept the fish cold. That was the refrigeration. We'd get fresh fish. And the reason we didn't eat animals is because now they're going to start to mate. In the spring they'll mate. Then you got to allow them to raise their little ones. And then, and then I remember the old people saying, well, the leaves have turned red now, you can hunt again. And I used to think, what's leaves got to do with hunting? Well, what they were really telling us is that the little ones have grown up now. Now you can take a mother or a father.
Oh.
Before the birds are mating. See now. Then they got to raise their little ones. You don't take a mother when they're raising their young. So you got to learn. You got to wait till they can they got to bring life into this world so that life may continue. It's like us too, we do the same thing as the animals. We bring life into this world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's so much to learn, but yet the simplicity of learning in the old way is just beautiful. It's a beautiful way. It's so simple. But today we think everything is so difficult. But really it's simple. And that's why I realized that these old people, they were such at peace because they knew what to do. They were totally at peace. They weren't running around like a chicken with their head cut off like sometimes we do. They'd sit down, they were at peace.
They'd have time for their families.
And they'd have time, they'd make time to sit and talk and wow. Yeah, look after other people as well. So anyway, yeah.
So they did their hunting when the leaves turned. So
in the fall.
In the fall. So then that meat is what they ate in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm. That's winter food. Mm-hmm.
So our summer food is just fish alone?
It's berries, fish, fresh vegetables. Yeah, that are fresh. Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you get fresh meat around here now? Our lakes are kind of polluted.
I know. Yeah, so it's a little bit hard, now today. We've got to work really hard to reverse what's happened if we want to be well again. We got lots of work to do. Very lot of work to do. Yeah.
So you've been keeping quite busy. I met you, I think, quite a number of years ago. I think you might have even came to Native Horizons. I'm not sure. It's either around that time or I met you through Jackie, and you gave me some tea. I was drinking. That's when I started drinking the herbal teas. I haven't stopped drinking herbal teas.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah, I'm drinking right now. I drink chai tea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I just like chai tea.
Yeah.
Chai tea, green tea.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time. But some of the teas and stuff that you that you gave at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt like they were very satisfying. I don't even know what kind of. I guess there's all varieties of different kinds of teas.
I mix my own blends for whatever people need. Yeah.
Yeah.
And natural medicines is tried and true. They never fail. There's no doubt that they work in a good way.
I remember I think my very first experience with Indian medicine as a young girl. I was like 11 years old,
Mm-hmm.
11 years old, and I had this thing on the bottom of my foot. I never liked wearing shoes, so I used to always run around barefoot in the city. And my mom says, "Well, you should be wearing shoes. That's why you got that problem. Old men spit on the ground and whatever. You got this thing on your foot now." And I went to Western medicine, and they gave me Compound W and these big pads and stuff to put on my feet. And I did that every night, and it was just so uncomfortable. And then my mom told her mom, and then my grandmother took us out to DQ Falls, and she just walked out into the bush just a few feet, grabbed this plant by the root, and gave it to my mom, put it in a paper bag, and said, "Here, boil this for 3 minutes, and then put it in lukewarm water, add some cold water to it, and have her soak her feet in that for a week." She doesn't have to put anything else on her feet. No pads, no band-aids, nothing of that. Just soak her feet for, I forget how many minutes, and it went away.
What kind of plant was it?
I have no idea. I have no idea what that plant was. But,
That's good.
but it worked, and I'd wish back then, I wish now that I had paid attention back then as to what the stuff was, right? But I just, in different aspects, I think I was a little fearful of the unknown because I didn't hear it talked about very much, and I think that could be a common thing for a lot of people,
Very
thinking
common.
that medicine is some kind of voodoo witch doctor kind of stuff.
But not only that, I think one of the reasons was to protect it. So it became kind of went underground, so to speak. But we still had the knowledge, but it wasn't openly used or talked about because we needed to protect our medicines. And I'm glad the old people decided to do that because they are protected in a lot of ways. So yeah. So I guess that's about all I gotta say. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
And you're busy now writing books and meeting up with people and
Very busy speaking all over. Still travel a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you plan to do that until you can no longer.
Well, yeah. I know I'll never retire, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should retire. No, as long as we're healthy and that's our role and responsibility. I never did know what retirement was about. You don't just get 65 and sit down and don't do anything anymore. I think our old people just went till they couldn't go anymore. Yeah, and I enjoy traveling and and I'm healthy, so why not?
How long have you been doing this for now?
Oh gosh, 40, 50 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you saw a lot of things.
Yeah. So anyway, I think
Okay.
our life is good if we can kind of reverse it again to where we can bring back, the goodness, the good part. Yeah. So
Okay.
what are you gonna do? Edit your video and.
Well, what I do is I'm just taking your exact words and transcribing it and putting them down in the paper, and then that's the end of my segment of the project. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I'm hoping that we get refunded so that I can continue finishing up to the final product into a book, and we're using it to educate others, to educate the community. So they get a better
And
understanding.
whose book is it?
Sodi.
Oh, Sodi's book. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're going to use it to educate people and let them know that there are answers out there. They have to search for them,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and that there are there's a solution. They have to be willing, and that diabetes, that
Mhm.
it's a silent killer, because people think that if they got diabetes they should be feeling something right away, and they don't necessarily feel anything.
No, they don't.
So I guess the lesson that we want to share to give to them is that don't wait until it's too late. Start changing today.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, start changing your lifestyle today, because it's so because it's increasing in population and getting a lot of people.
It's an epidemic, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's an epidemic.
So that's what we're doing.